Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a BookBase interview where today we talk to author India Vane. India is an indie romance author who released her debut novel, Alligator Blood, in fall of 2024. And she's recently released her second book, Inked Magnolia, this past February, and has a third book planned for this upcoming summer. If at any point during this interview you want to follow India Vane on her journey, please check out her Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at India Vane Books. But India, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. First off, cool name. Like I just think like it's a really awesome name. It's not
Thank
because I'm
you.
Indian by any means. I just think like I'm not biased at all. I just think that's really cool. I read your name and I was like, wow, that sounds like a superhero name or something. Like I would
Ooh, I
totally.
like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's cool. But getting into everything that you do and stuff, I always love asking the first question, which is, what was your inspiration to begin writing and becoming an author? Because I know that for a lot of people, it could be a daunting thing. But what was it for you? Like, what was it like?
Funny story about that. So I had night terrors really, really bad when I was a kid. Um, just debilitating, not sleep paralysis, but big, big night terrors. And I couldn't figure out how to overcome that. I was terrified. I would sleep, you know, I've fallen asleep under my bed because I've been so scared, of everything. But what you learn, and what I learned to do is when you write it down, you gain control over it. So I started writing down, the things that were scaring me or that I had nightmares about, and then I would turn the story into something different. And so it kind of takes the power away from something unknown when you write it and it becomes yours. So I was also the kid that was in the library sitting by the scary stories section and reading scary stories to tell in the dark and all of that. So I took something that scared me and made it mine, made it a story, made it less scary. And then it really started my love for descriptive and creative writing and storytelling, and then absolutely loving horror at the same time. So it kind of all helped me in the end, but that's how I got started.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's a really unique story. Well, I'm sorry, the sleep terrors like that stuff isn't cool. But like just the idea that like you owned it and you wrote about it and everything. I think that's a really great way of like expressing not only, like your like great ways to cope with like scary things that you see, but it seemed like you
Mhm.
even owned it to where you were reading scary stories and like
Mhm.
getting into it. I remember there's just one story in that book. I remember in elementary school, I don't know why. My teacher just loved reading those stories, and clearly I was bothered by it because I'd always be behind my friends. Like, and then what happened? But there was this one story where like this girl was getting stalked by this scary guy, and like the story is about how he gets closer and closer to her.
Mhm.
And I think the story ends where it's like she finds out she's not alone in the house or whatever, and like the
Yeah.
story ends, and I'm like, oh okay, like and then what happened? And then my teacher was like, that's it.
And then that's it.
And I'm like, wait, I don't understand. Like, there's no story that does this. And so, like, just being introduced like cliffhangers and like the pauses that
Mhm.
horror has, it's interesting and it's an amazing genre. But given how much you love horror, I'm curious, why did you end up taking the romance route versus making like horror stories or something that's based off of like the stuff that you would read when you were younger? And on top of that, how did that lead to like you creating or writing your first book, Alligator Blood?
So I did write horror here and there. I do have some finished things just kind of hanging out, just chilling. Um, I have had just a couple things, published here and there on websites and stuff like that. So I'm kind of hanging on to it until I feel that there's something that really, really stands out to me. But being a lover of all things scary, you find people like me, we end up at a point where not that we're desensitized, but that we seek it out. And so instead of, hiding behind a friend saying, and then what happens, we're literally like, okay, and then what are we doing? There's a sound, we got to go check it out.
Right.
So you turn into finding things that you find that fear, you're trying to chase that fear, and then you end up not finding it anymore. So I'm one of those people where someone will say, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen? And I honestly, I don't know, because they don't really do that for me anymore. So I think I'm kind of hanging on to just kind of waiting it out and seeing if there's something that really stands out to me. I have been loving reading horror from other authors right now, and I've just been kind of exploring some of my favorite horror authors, and those are really the two genres that I kind of go between that I really like. Which is funny because some they're very different, but they do in very slim categories crossover. So I have been kind of enjoying the crossover. My book this summer is a paranormal romance, so I do dip into um, I wouldn't say horror. I would say it's like a gothic, one of those classic hauntings that you see, but I see somewhere along the line going that route, just because I can't help myself.
Yeah.
But leading into Alligator Blood, I think that dark romance too is a really good dip into that as well. Things that when you ask people what are they most afraid of, the movies that scare me recently actually have nothing to do with monsters or ghosts or, it's the real world stuff that is the scariest to me. So when you read dark romance, you kind of get a little bit of that sometimes. Sometimes you get a little bit of there's the violence in there, there's all of that. So Alligator Blood um, touches on there's carjacking, kidnapping, murder, tension. So it kind of goes into that a little bit because horror can be a little bit of not necessarily the things that go bump in the night being paranormal or being, you know, demonic or anything. Sometimes the real people are a little scarier than those things. So it kind of led into I kind of find inspiration just in random places, and it just kind of one scene popped in my head and I couldn't get rid of it. And then I just threw it in my notes app and thought, maybe that'll turn into a thing. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Let it sit in there and keep checking on it like plants, you keep checking on your seeds. I keep checking back in on my notes and reading through, and sometimes I'm like, what the hell is that? That makes no sense. And then a year later I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I was looking for. That makes total sense. So I just let it sit for a while, and I heard a song, it just popped in, and the whole story just started to go.
With all due respect, I don't think I'd ever want to be in a haunted place with you, because if you're gonna go look for what's starting all of that, like, that's crazy. You sound like my family, because my uncles, you would always tell me, like, they're from Fiji, and they would, like, sometimes, like, say, like, they experience paranormal stuff, and they would tell me, like, yeah, like, you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should always, like, always
Right.
act calm. And I'm looking at
Right.
these guys like they're crazy, because I'm like, do you guys understand what you're saying right now? Like, there's actual paranormal things happening around you. And my dad's the type where it's like, if he hears something, he has to go check it out,
I
which I
like
think
that.
is no, yeah. I mean, I like it too, because I don't have to do it. Like, okay, yeah, you go check it out, but
Yeah.
I hate those horror movies where it's that one guy that's like, oh, let me get to the bottom of it. And he's like super masculine. Like, that's like his trope. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, nothing could stop me. And he just gets stabbed and killed. And I'm just like, okay, like, what did we learn? Like, do we want to talk about it?
Right.
So, I'm totally with you on that. Like, where it's like, like when you're ever in like the stories and stuff, like, there's different types of characters and different types of mentalities that
Right.
go into those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were talking about with that blend of horror and romance, it immediately
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of Nosferatu, that movie that just came out,
Yes.
where it's like gothic, it's scary, but
Yes.
at the same time there's that element of like obsession and like love that
Mm-hmm.
just takes over. So I think that's like, we're in a great time where we're seeing blendings of like different genres, and we're seeing
Yes.
experiments outside of Twilight, because if I
Right.
hear more
Yeah.
Twilight, I know Jalen just read the stories, so it's like I won't slander it
Yeah.
too much. But I remember when the movies were coming out, they're like, "Oh, this is cinema," and I'm like, "Please, like, it's crazy. Like, there needs to be other vampire and other versions of horror romance, or just other blendings." So I'm glad that we see it now. But yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm reading through Twilight for the first time, so
Oh, it's your first
too
time
hard.
reading it?
I've never read it before. I watched the movies growing up, and like that's all that I had. So I'm on the last one, but it's definitely different. It's more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it even like a horror romance. It's more of like a humorous book to me. Like it's more of a reading this, and it's kind of joking, more than anything else. Like, I would definitely not call that a romance or a horror. But yeah, it's interesting hearing how, things from the past or notes that you write to yourself come up and they help you create things like Alligator Blood. I actually wanted to ask you about your next book, Inked Magnolia, because that's a part of a series,
Yeah.
if I'm correct. So how did you get the concept for that book and that series, and is it any different, the process for writing Alligator Blood as a standalone versus the series that you're starting with Inked Magnolia?
So the way Inked Magnolia came to me is I was just thinking about, I think I was reading something, or sometimes on TikTok you see people storytelling, and I love story times just because you get so much inspiration out of it. But I was just listening to people. There was a trend where people talking about, what's the worst like bullying thing that's happened to you, or things like that. And I think somewhere along the line we've all experienced something like that. And, I've seen a lot of stories where there are times where they deal with it and then there's the aftermath. Me personally, I'm the type where I have yet to go to a high school reunion. I won't go. It's just, something that you have to go through school, you have to, and then you leave it behind. And to me, it's a character building experience for me, but then the door is shut. I don't need to go back there. But you do get these stories of redemption or second chances or things like that. And that was always a genre that I avoided because I personally, in my own life, I don't know how to do that. To me, the door is closed means the door is closed. And I don't know really how to kind of go back from that. But I think when you write, it really kind of lets you explore different things even within yourself. It lets you heal. It lets you, so there's a lot of things in all of my writing, and just I'm sure with all of the other authors that write, where you kind of work through things, or you explore, what if I would have done this, or just things like that. So I wanted to write an experience in high school, but not have this setting be high school. So any high school scenes are flashbacks only. And the process of that is different for me because it's a series of 6 books, and each book goes through one of the bullies later in life, and it taps back into the same exact flashbacks, but from someone else's perspective. So it lets you kind of see kind of a full view of what's going on, because something that sticks out to you, and I've worked for an after school kids nonprofit as well, and when you do that, sometimes when you're on the admin side of it and you get to see everybody's like income statements and home situations and parental agreements and all of that, sometimes the kids that are labeled as bullies or whatever, they're the kids that are dealing with things that even an adult wouldn't know how to handle. So in this series, you're kind of getting a look at people that were in situations as children or as teenagers that were beyond their control and beyond their ability to kind of handle. And what that does is, through life, just like when you're bullied through life, how that affects you in your other relationships, when you are the bully as well, because of whatever was happening at your house or to you in your life, that affects you too. So it kind of brings everybody back to those flashbacks as a learning experience and as a moment. So it doesn't make any of their behavior forgivable in any way, and it doesn't make you sympathetic to someone who's being terrible, but it gives you just more empathy and understanding to all human experiences and how people are able to handle them well or not at all. So I wanted each book to kind of tackle different real life things that people have gone through, and what that looks like. So it's it's not all traumatic. Sometimes it's the overprivilege that lets you grow up thinking that the world is one way because you've been lucky enough to never experience it any other way. And then when you're faced with you know, how you're out there in the world and things don't look like that for everyone. So each book gives you a glimpse of someone's experience, and then it takes you back to how they acted in school and kind of what they do later in life. So it gives you that the moment where to break the cycle, you have to face what happened. And then the reward for breaking the cycle is being open and healthy and stable enough to have a great relationship. So each book gives you that. So I just wanted to kind of give that whole classic, you know, good guy, bad guy experience. I wanted to blur those lines a lot because in reality they really are. It doesn't make anybody better or forgivable. It just, the understanding is important. So it just kind of, each book will go on, and there's a floral theme throughout. So Inked Magnolia is the first one, and we'll focus on zinnia, the flower zinnia, for the next one, and then that will hopefully be out in December.
That's so exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like something that a lot of people will be able to relate to in some sense, you know, either on the side of I had to look back on things that I've done in the past and, you know, come to terms with that, or if someone was bullied in the past and being able to kind of put perspective on that. Super important. And it sounds really interesting, going through a 6-book series, you know, following similar, well, the same like sort of concept, but different characters and then point of view. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, what you just said really resonated with me because I actually work at an elementary school part-time currently, and it's really weird going back to an elementary school as an adult because I get like PTSD flashbacks of like seeing the letters on the wall, and I'm like, oh my god, cursive, you guys still do that? And you know, the kids that come up, you know, there's situations where like 2 kids will come up to me. One's like really upset because a ball got thrown at them and they're blaming this other kid. And I remember when I was a kid, like, you know, when something like that happens, it's like a war where it's like, oh, you threw the ball at me, I don't know you, like you're exactly, it's done. And you know, as the adult, you know, you have to like talk to them and understand what's happening. And when you talk to the kid that, like, you know, was quote unquote the bully or the one throwing the ball, you know, when you're I was by myself with this kid, and this kid starts breaking down because he just had a bad day and he threw the ball in the direction because he just had to throw it to somewhere else, ended up throwing the wrong way and ended up hitting this kid. But like, he was telling me over and over again, like, you know, he was sorry and he didn't mean it like that, he was just really cranky. And it's crazy that, like, you know, once you start hearing different perspectives of it, and you especially just hear from that person themselves, like, what really happened and got the whole picture, you know, you really start understanding, like we were saying, there's not really good or bad people. It's just like 2 people that just go through a situation, and sometimes it just gets messy. And you know, I think in high school it's 100% more serious for, like, you know, the people in that campus. Like, when you're in high school, everything matters, like from what you wear to who you talk to what you say. So I think the setting for your book is really relatable for, I think, a lot of people, not only in high school currently, but even for young adults after, that may either suffer from situations like that, or maybe they were the ones that were being mean to other people, and they have to like come to terms in terms of, like, you know, understanding like what happened and how they want to be better and like how they want to grow from it. So I think it's really relatable. So I think that's awesome. I think it's a great series to make. Yeah, of course. And speaking on writing, I did read your blog post and I read through the whole entire thing about your advice on writing and like how you start writing. But I just wanted to ask if you had any advice to anyone that's watching this and they kind of want to be an author, but they're not really sure if they want to. They love reading, they love writing, but they're not sure if they want to take that extra step. Do you have any advice for people that do want to become authors?
I would say the biggest advice would be, no matter what, write it. Because I think what helped me for a while was, you know, oh, nobody's going to read it, or it's not going to be that popular, or maybe I should only focus on writing something that I know, you know, seems to be more mainstream marketable, or, you know, just everything. I was focused on everything except for just writing because I want to write. And I think if you go into it and, you know, you go into it and you just think, wow, I really just want to write this story because this story needs to be told, then that's the important part. So I think, you know, before COVID, the writing scene was a little bit harder to break into, and even the way that people viewed indie publishing was so different than it is now. And instead of worrying about the competition, the important part is just to write it. Somebody out there is going to read what you write. And even if it's one person or 10 people, or, you know, if you get lucky one day and it becomes, you know, 100,000 people, a million people, it's the important part is that your story is told. And that breaks, you know, everything else. So instead of worrying about what you're gonna do with it, or, you know, how popular it's gonna be, or, you know, if traditional publishing is gonna pick it up or anything like that, you know, you can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. So the first thing you need to do is just write it. Just write it. And then I would look into libraries, colleges, even Facebook groups. There are so many creative writing groups, and there are so many book clubs and so many things like that. I was lucky enough to, you know, even get invited to one of the indie authors that I really love. The more we talked, our books both came out kind of at the same time, our first ones, and she has a group of really great people that every night there's a writing sprint Zoom. So they all join a Zoom, and it's just to hold each other accountable and help writing. They all, you can leave everything on mute, but it's just the fact that you're connected to other people. So I would say, you know, connecting to other people in any way, if that's something that's helpful to you. But no matter what, I would write it. I would write it all. I have so many unfinished, so many unfinished random projects, and I thought it was just because I was an Aries, but it's not. So it's just one of those. Just write it. I can't even tell you how many books that I have plotted out that haven't gone anywhere yet. I honestly, I have stuff that I'm ready to write for probably the next like 10 years, and I wish I was joking, but I'm really not. So I would just write it, and if you get halfway through a book and you're like, okay, write something else. But I think there's people put so much pressure on themselves to finish a book or write a book. Okay, well, maybe it's not a book. Maybe it's a collection of short stories that you can put together at the end. Maybe it's, you know, everybody's focused on when traditional publishing has their submission guidelines. There's always a word count involved. And so people try really hard. Okay, I got to hit 100,000 words. I don't. That's why I like indie publishing. My story is as long as my story needs to be. And then that's where it is. So I would the biggest advice really that I can give anybody is honestly, just write it. Just write it, whatever you want it to be.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, that's really real advice. Like, yeah, I think the biggest step, I think what you just said, where you were like, you know, you can't be a part of the lottery if you don't buy a ticket, I think is absolutely true. Where it's like, if you think so much about buying the ticket, you'll never be able to like really be a part of whatever you're overthinking about. So you might as well just do it, and then whatever happens. Your whole article, when you were talking about on your blog about writing your writing style, one thing that I really thought was really interesting is that you attach music to it, where you use sounds and you use other things that aren't connected to writing to help influence the way that you go about writing. And I just wanted to ask, just curious, like when it comes to your books, Alligator Blood and Inked Magnolia, do you have any songs that you have in your head that you're like, oh yeah, like you heard this song, I'm attaching that to the story? Or is it a specific genre? Is it like older music or pop music today?
Got a playlist.
Yeah, do you have a playlist?
So I do. I do have playlists for all of my projects, and I don't make those afterwards. I make them as part of the draft process. So that way that is in my head and I am listening to that as I'm writing. I also really love the YouTube channels that have just different, like a fireplace isn't my thing, but a aquarium, but you can type in like Jurassic Park and you're just sitting in like it's just funny, or like a French bistro, and you can like, I like to put myself as much as possible in something. And the funny thing is that I know there are people that speak in lyrics, like they're very music people. I am a movie and TV person, but the music just helps kind of quiet my brain because I have whatever the opposite of writer's block is. Well, it's ADHD, but it's one of those. I don't have a problem getting stuck. I have a problem with too many other things popping up where it's like, oh, a shiny, here's a new one, let's do this. So at any given time, there's too many tabs open. So I'm like, I need to just get a playlist, get something on TV, get going. But when I was toying around with the idea of Alligator Blood, I had one scene in my head that I was like, I'm gonna make something with this. I don't know what it is, but this is a thing. I know it's a thing. And I didn't know what I was gonna do with it. And then I was listening to the Suicide Squad soundtrack.
Okay.
And there's a song called Wreak Havoc, and it absolutely, it's like 3.5 minutes of just chaos. There's like gun sounds in it, and just, I don't know, but I hear that, and I was like, ooh, wait a second, wait a second, and then it just started going. So I kind of go through a playlist where I have very few favorite songs, since I'm not really connected to music that way as other people are. But I like to go into Spotify, and I will type in. I love that you can type in like POV. You are a murderess who just had a martini, and somebody has made a playlist for it.
Yeah.
So I will search through, and I will literally just close my eyes, and I'll just scroll through, listen to songs. Sometimes they're not even in English, you know, it's just whatever sound, whatever feels right for it, you know it. Yeah. And then it just shows up. So yeah, I can't even explain how it happens. My Spotify Wrapped is just so chaotic because it's like, your favorite songs are from Megan Thee Stallion, and then like a French singer that I've never heard of, or you know, look, here's music from the top 40 in Portugal, and it makes no sense. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason to it. Same with my search history. You're like, what are you doing? Like, is this one person, or is this 12 people that share the account? But it's just, to me, I see pattern. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to other people, but to me, it will make sense. So I'll see a bunch of things, and then I'll just go, oh, okay, well, this thing and this thing go together. And it'll be like blue and the number 3. And I'm like, yeah, because they match. And everybody's like, okay. And I'm like, but it's a thing because they match, because a story's going to happen. And then so it's whatever works for everybody else. But for me, it's just seeing things or hearing things, and then when they click, all of a sudden that scene in my head turns into something bigger. It's maybe now it's not a scene, maybe it's an opening sequence, maybe it's act 2, maybe it's, so it just gets more evolved the more I just pick up random things from places.
There's this.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you on that POV like playlist stuff. I saw this one. I was on an ego trip for like a long time because I found this POV. You are a prince in medieval Europe trying to build his empire, and it'll play like gigantic orchestral, just dramatic music. And like the first time I heard it, I was like, "This is so like." Whatever, this is cringe. So then I put it away, and then one time I was driving and I was just in the mood for something that was just heavy, so I was like, let me put that on. I just started speeding. Like, I was just driving because I was like, wait a minute, like, the world is mine. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. And I also feel the same way, where it's like music, I think sometimes can just help you kind of put you into a mood or put you into the scene that you need to be put into. And I think it's great that like you're listening to different types of music, because I think some of the most expressive ways to really like go about music and stuff, it goes outside of the mainstream stuff. I think like the fact that you listen to like the top 40 in Portugal, you listen to random music around the world and stuff. You never know. Like it just takes something to just take in your brain to be like, wait a minute, like this works with whatever I'm working with. I don't know if it's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Jalen, but you know that meme?
Love that show.
I love that show.
Oh my god. Is that the show with the meme with the strings on the board and the guys like looking crazy? That's
Pepe Sylvia.
yeah. That's what you were reminding me of when you were like, oh, people don't get it, but I do. Like I see it.
The
And
best part
imagine.
is that that's literally the meme that I send people. That's the exact one. Because I'm just like, and then this, and then this goes with this, and then they always send me back the one where it's the blonde lady with all the like equations.
Yes, and
all
then
over
she's
the
like
screen.
looking around.
Yeah, and I'm like, you don't see the thing that I clearly like it connects it like it does.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, if you say it does, we'll just read it when it comes out. I'm like, okay, you'll get it. You'll get it, I promise.
Yeah. Sounds
cool.
like your support system is supporting you, which I love to hear. I definitely can relate to that though, of like, well, and this is a thing that was going on online for a little while, but people were arguing like, okay, what color is English versus what color is science?
Yeah.
Like that stuff makes sense to me. I get where you're coming from. Like 3 and blue, yeah, they're connected. Like I can see that.
That's the thing. Sense. They can just go together.
Yeah, no, 100%. And definitely with like the playlist and putting yourself kind of into that mental space of like, okay, here's what I'm writing. Like these are the sounds that help me to get into that space. I don't know if that's something that you'd be willing to share with us. We could link it in the description to this interview, but that like I totally understand where you're coming from.
I'll send you a couple. One, my favorite go-to one when I'm at work. And I've had people come into my office and look around like, what the hell? But my favorite one channel when I'm not like linked into like a specific mood, it's just like my my workflow, I guess, it's a channel called Nemo's Dreamscapes. Okay. And it's famous for like if you searched oldies playing in another room.
Yes.
That, I don't know what it is about it, but I remember loving the video game BioShock, and it literally sounds like you're in like Rapture and you're listening to, I don't know what it is, but the fact that it's like oldies playing in another room while you're on a train and it's raining. And I'm like, oh, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've had that playing, and it's people will come to my office and you'll literally see their faces where they're like, and I'm like, yeah, because you know, like it makes sense to me.
That's the stuff that I'm listening to on YouTube too.
Yeah, I'll send you.
Yeah, that would be great. Definitely link them so that whoever's watching, they can also enjoy and understand where we're coming from.
Or I'm with you to it and be like,
or not understand. That's okay too. I'm with you in those YouTube comments. I'm gonna find you one day. We're together. I get you. So
I'll be like, one of us.
One of us. There you go. Join the club. But you have been mentioning some of your books that are coming out in the summer, some stuff that you have coming out. I was just wondering what else is in the future for you.
So we have, so we've got, just on the book side, I've got a standalone paranormal romance. It is a haunted lighthouse story. And then book 2 of the Bright Ridge 6 series will come out in December. And that will feature a poly relationship. And I'm doing that, I'm timing that because Christmas is really fun for a lot of people, but for people that are not with their family and they haven't necessarily found family yet, holidays are really tough, especially the first holiday season without, a traditional structure. So I wanted to, if the character is going through that, I mean, there are other people in the world going through that too. So I want to release it during that time, just to also balance out. A lot of the content during Christmas is very one way, and I kind of want to just, balance it out a little bit for other people. But next year I will probably work on really finishing out the Bright Ridge 6 series as much as I can. I might throw in a standalone here or there, if just for people that maybe you aren't into the series, just something else. Maybe it's just a little shorter, or I just have to work through my massive list of just things that I'm working on. So I might do that, but for now, I'm gonna try to finish out that series, because I have another series after that I want to do. That I already have the manuscript for book 1 done, and book 2 is started, but I don't want to do 2 series at the same time, because I think that's kind of confusing. Especially if there was one that was fantasy, one that wasn't, it might be a little easier, but they're both contemporary. So I'm just gonna finish this series out with a couple standalones here and there, and then after that I'll go right into the next one.
Great.
Got it.
Lots
Awesome.
to look forward to. Yeah.
Thank you
Maybe
so much.
one day that horror one will creep right in.
Oh yeah, no, that'll be exciting, especially on Halloween. Like that'll be such a crazy
Yeah.
announcement. That'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
I'm doing the paranormal one during the summer, because it's set in New England. It's set around Massachusetts, and I don't want to set it. It has to be set during the summer there, because it's the cold is a little too much there. So I'm focusing the events that happen during the summer. So I try to release it as much as possible when these specific events are happening. So it's like just one of those more, to me, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense, because it's the right time. That's when it's happening. So that's when I want to. So I'm shooting for probably mid to, I would say mid-July is what I'm looking at.
Awesome.
For that one.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And our last question is something that we love asking every person that we interview. So just to like bring it up again, so BookBase is a platform that's meant to bring readers together through book club chats for people that aren't really able to find like-minded readers in real life, or for people that want to be a part of a book club environment but they can't find it. Pretty much BookBase is that virtual platform where they can go on and they can like meet people that also read the stuff that they're into, and just create a bunch of book club chats, and like just really experience a social way of literature, something that people I think would consider more of an isolated experience. I think could be more solitary with a bunch of more people, where they can just hang out and just talk about what they love. And I just wanted to ask you, in your experience with you growing up and everything, what do you think is important about like socializing around books? And like, did you ever grow up being a part of a book club or talking to people about comic books? Like, I know you mentioned that earlier, like just other things that you were into when you were younger, or now, sorry.
No, it's okay. I would say I was a library kid because I didn't have a book club. And it's kind of like you can get picked on for something, and then you put yourself in the place where it happens, and all of a sudden everybody is the same way. So you could get picked on for comic books, and as soon as I walked into my first Wizard World comic convention in 2002, all of a sudden I'm not the random kid that reads one thing. All of a sudden I'm in a convention center with everybody that's doing the exact same thing I'm doing, and it just makes you feel so seen and part of a community that you didn't even know existed. And they're not people from where you live. They're people from people come from all over the country to go to those. And so once I went to my first one, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to more of these, because it wasn't just, buying cool exclusive things or meeting celebrities, from your favorite TV shows or artists that drew your favorite things. It's just the people that you bump into while you're in line for a hot dog or something. And you're just like, you see them holding something. And I find myself, as soon as I went to my first, book event ever, I went to Romancing the Craft in Anaheim last year, and it was a bunch of other indie authors or aspiring indie authors, and there were pitch sessions available. We were all in workshops with Sierra Simone and Ali Hazelwood was there, and these are the people that you look up to. Anna Huang was there, and you're looking up to these people, and you're like, oh my gosh, and they're just hanging out with you, talking about their writing process and teaching you how to write different things, and it makes you see, okay, they're not up here and I'm down here. We're all doing something that we love together in a different way that's very personal and expressive. So once I did that, and I made friends of other authors that were in the same, doing the same things, and some of us were in the same kind of spot, some of us weren't, but it lets you feel that sense of community, that sense of that visibility that you didn't have before. And so this, the book festival that we were at in Irwindale, that was so cool. To connect with other people. And every time I find myself doing it, if I stand in Barnes and Noble and I'm looking at the romance section and somebody else walks, and they're looking too, I find myself doing that thing where I stop looking at the books and I'm like side-eyeing, like little side eye of the person next to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna pick? And then I've seen somebody tilt the spine of a book to kind of like look at the back cover, and I cannot help myself, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that one's really good. And right away somebody will turn around and go, oh my gosh, did you read it? Is it good? And then so I like putting myself in the places that that these things are happening. And so I would say to anybody, the best thing you can do is check I know I mean, Amazon is so accessible to everybody, but honestly, your local bookstores are so excited to see you. And it's really cool that the events that a lot of indie bookstores are having, sometimes you wouldn't know unless you go to their website or their social media and check it out. But going to a book festival is really awesome. But when you go to your local indie bookstore for a book club, it's so cool because there are people that maybe live in your area that you had no idea were into anything that you're into, people that you've never met before, and now you're like, oh my gosh, you live 2 blocks away from me and we're both reading the same Bryn Weaver book. Like, that's so cool. So I would tell people too, also to support indie bookstores big time. I would say focus on what your local library is doing. Our local library here in Palm Springs, the Rancho Mirage one, I think, just started their first romance book club. And it's so cool because I, bought the book, and then I DM'd the author and I said, hey, we're having our first book club for you. This is so cool. And she wrote me back and she was like, if you have any questions or anybody has any questions, you guys just let me know. And that connection piece is so cool. It's makes you feel like you're part of something, like you're in this community and you're not just an observer in it. You're just as equal of a part of it as, these best-selling authors, are. And so, I don't know, it's really cool, but I would check for sure. I would check your local library and I would check your local indie bookstores, because when you think there's not a lot of people around you that like the same thing you like, I just think they're friends that you haven't made yet. They're there. You just haven't met them yet because you haven't been in a place where, you've passed each other in the grocery store, but you haven't had a chance to sit down. You're both holding the same book, and all of a sudden it's a meet cute for like 15 people. So I would definitely give the attention to your local shops for sure.
Absolutely. No, thank you. That was an awesome answer. Like, that was, yeah. I'm actually gonna look up to see if there's any local bookstores. I don't think there is any in my city, but I know that we talked to a bookstore that's an indie store in Ventura, so that's like an hour and a half away or something like that. And it's she was talking about the same thing, how it's amazing when people come to, like, support the store and also create book clubs around a physical location. I think especially in today's time, where I just feel like, there's so many different things being released in terms of literature, just anything in the creative world right now. I think as soon as you meet somebody that's like really into the same things that you are, like it just immediately just opens everything. Like, oh wow, like I'm not alone in this. And I think that's an amazing feeling that I feel like everybody should at least experience. I mean, at least once. I'm sure people experience more than once.
Oh yeah, and
like,
it's funny because even I reached out to, and it's people that aren't just readers, but a lot of artists too, because the person that did the art for Inked Magnolia, she's my tattoo artist.
Oh.
And so it was really cool because in Inked Magnolia, her character, the main character, is a tattoo artist, and she used tattoos to kind of heal her, you know, from what happened to her in her past, and then she wanted to give that back to other people. So as I'm getting inked by my person, I'm like, hey, as you're finishing this little TARDIS right here, I was like, while you're finishing that, I just have a quick question. And so we just talked for a little bit, and she was like, that's really cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that for you. And I just thought it was such a cool connection piece for me to have too. And even like a more immersive thing in the character, because it's like a tattoo. It's like Inception. I was like, a tattoo artist drawing a tattoo artist who's doing tattoos for people. And I just thought it was so cool. So yeah, it's not even just readers. It's sometimes people are really great, you know, and she loves D&D and everything. So it was just one of those things where anywhere you can put yourself around creative people, do it. Because even if they're not readers, what they'll come up with and how they'll connect with you is so cool. But for sure.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for just telling us so, like, this was a great interview. Oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for sharing everything. It was really great just hearing like a really honest yet like sincere, it was just a sincere yet chill response, where I feel like a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, like put a lot of pressure when it comes to like writing books and like having to be a part of this industry. But I feel like your point of view is a lot more relaxing, where it's like take your time with it, find out what works for you first, and then just take it step by step. And I think the way you broke everything down, I think would make anybody that's watching this feel a lot more calm, where it's like, okay, well, I don't have to stress out too much about deadlines, word count, or something.
And I mean, who doesn't, of course, like who doesn't want to see their name as a, you know, whatever bestseller, New York Times bestseller? Who wouldn't want that? That's awesome. But I just had somebody, one of my readers, she read Inked Magnolia, and then she messaged me and she was like, this was so good. These characters will stick with me forever. And I was like, I don't care if I sell another thing for the rest of my life. I was like, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I can't put a price on that. I can't. And you see things like that and you're like, this is why I did it. This is why, because it was a story that needed to be told to someone. It's someone's favorite. And that, I was like, I did the thing. I did it. Like, that was it. I'm good. And so everything else after that, you know, it's awesome if it happens. I just want to tell my stories. But I think if people feel that way about it, where yes, you don't have to lie to yourself and say, oh, I don't want to ever be a bestseller. Sure. Everybody wants to win the lottery. But I mean, to me, that I can't even explain what that meant to me. And I screenshotted that comment, that message, and I reread it. And I keep it because every time I hit a point where you get the imposter syndrome and you're like, it's not going to be any good, you know, nobody cares, it's not going to be great. You read that and I'm like, okay, one, you know, out of the 10 people that ever read this book, one person was so connected to it that these characters will stick with her. And I was just like, it just brings you right back down to what's important, and tell your stories. That's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the journey is always a lot more rewarding when it comes to stuff like this than the destination. Like, I think even if, like, of course, the New York Times bestseller is, like, amazing, but I think even if you did get that, I think you'd still think more about that one person that told you how much that story
1000%.
impacted. Yeah. So I think that's really special, and I think that's great that, like, you're able to see that now, and I hopefully, like, that just increases where a lot more people read your books and they get, you know, more in touch with, like, the things that you're writing. So, like, that's awesome. That's really cool. And thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for this interview. It's been great talking to you. Yeah, of course. It was amazing. Oh my gosh, like Jalen, like I'm so happy you met Jalen. I'm so happy that like you joined this interview. Like, it was so awesome.
Oh, it's been great.
and that was my first book festival ever.
Oh wow! No, yeah,
that was my first. I didn't even know what to expect. If it wasn't for Sienna Harlow next to me, I don't know what I would have done. But she helped me out so much. She was so nice. That was the first time we met in person.
Oh, nice.
But she was like, okay, so you want to make sure you have. I'm like, okay, got it. But it was my first one, and I told myself my goal. I'm like, if I just talk to 2 people today, if I sell 1 book today, and the amount of people that reached out and that I got to connect with, and authors that understand you, they get what it's like, it was just really cool, and got to meet you. So
yeah, I'm very glad that you were there. I'm very glad that I was there. It's important to show up for things like that, and that's where you find the community, like what you were talking about earlier. Going to events like that, showing up, being open to talking to people can be very hard, but look at what can come out of it. So
I know, great. And I'm on BookBase too now, so everybody
glad to hear it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're so excited. Yeah, no, we saw you create your account. We were so excited, like, oh my gosh, like India Vane created your account. That's so cool. But yeah, no, thank you so much for this interview, India. Like, it's been great.
Thank you so much.
All right.